Hello there everyone. In today's Matplotlib tutorial on the Future Programmer YouTube channel, we're going to talk about how we can create stack plots and how we can use Matplotlib's fill between function to fill in the area between multiple lines. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Stack plots, also known as area plots, are a special type of line graphs where the area under each line is filled, and if there are multiple lines, then the area between the lines will be filled. And although it seems like a very minor, very small change, stack plots can be much better in some scenarios. For example, in cases where we not only want to show changes of some data over time in categories, if we also want to show the change in the difference between the categories, then we can use a stack plot to better show that data. For instance, a line graph can be used to show the increase in both ownership of gasoline-powered cars and electric vehicles, but a stack plot can be better suited if we want to show how, although gas-powered cars are leading in popularity, the gap between the two is actually closing. In the second half of today's lesson, we will talk about how we can fill in the area between two lines in Matplotlib using the plt.fillBetween function. Let's start off by importing matplotlib.pyplot as plt. And then let's talk about plt.stackplot. This is the function that we will use to create stack plots in Python. There are two ways to pass in our data. We have x as usual. This is the same in both ways of calling this function. The difference is how we can pass in the y values. We can either pass one parameter, one argument y, which is a two-dimensional array of y values, or we can pass in the y values separately. Let me show you what I mean. So these two cells, besides the import statement up here, they're the exact same program, even though the code is slightly different. These lines are the exact same. However, the difference is in the plt.stackplot function call. Here we pass in x, and then we pass in y1, y2, y3, y4. Here, we actually combine all of these y lists into one list called y, which is a list of lists, a two-dimensional list containing 4 smaller sublists, each containing these numbers right here. And then we call plt.stackplot x and y. Either way would work perfectly, and you actually see that the result is going to be the same. So I can call this again, and we'll see the same graph. So the good thing about using stack plots is we can not only show that, for instance, the top line right here, we can see it's increasing, but we can also show how the difference between these lines are changing over time. For example, the gap between the top line and the second line right here, we can see it's actually increasing. And then let's talk about how we can add labels and legends to our stack plot. We can use the label parameter of plt.stackplot to specify the labels for each stack. And by stack, I'm talking about, for example, the red area right here, or the green area right here, or the orange one, or the blue one. Each of these is a stack. So we have the same data as before, same function call as before, besides for one change, labels is equal to A, B, C, and D, and this is going to match the order of y1 through y4. And then we have plt.title, xlabel, ylabel, and legend. Notice how the location parameter is upper left, since we can say that this is probably the best place for putting a legend. After calling plt.show, we can see this nice looking graph with a not so informative title, although you can certainly change it to fit whatever data you have. We have the axis labels, and we have a nice legend right here. A more customizable way of creating area plots is using Matplotlib's pyplot.fillBetween function, which fills the area between two lines. So we have x right here, range 150, and y1 and y2 are created by adding some noise to x and y1 respectively. And then we have two lines created using plt.plot x and y1, and then x and y2. Before we call plt.show, we call plt.fillBetween with these parameters. We have x, and then we have the two lines that we want to fill between the y1 list and the y2 list. Alpha is going to specify the transparency. 0.5 is going to be half transparent. Base color is just the color of our shaded region between these two lines. And we can see we have the two lines, first of all, and then we have the green shaded region filled between these two lines. So hopefully StackPlot and fill between are going to be useful in some data science projects in your future. And that will be it for today's video on plt.stackplot and plt.fillBetween. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments section. And if you enjoyed today's video and found it helpful, please consider subscribing and giving this video a thumbs up. With that said, thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you in future programming tutorials.